Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Gabriel Vivas-Martínez, and I am one of the co-artistic directors of the International Online Theatre Festival 2021 of the Theatre Times. And it is my great pleasure to be hosting this panel discussion around bodies, space, and performance. And in this panel discussion, we will be looking at physical theatre, aesthetics, working conditions in a pandemic world, but also possibilities, creative possibilities, and how do we envisage, how do we project the future of theatre from this situation. And I am very grateful because I have amazing company today. I'm going to welcome all the artists that are involved in different sections of our festival. And I'm going to introduce them briefly so you all remember their production, their pieces, and also have an idea of who is discussing this topic today. So the first person I'm going to introduce is Daniela Poch Márquez. Daniela is a Chilean acting student at the Pontificia Universidad Católica de Chile. She has completed a certificate of specialization in body practices and performance studies, and she has also participated in dance, acting, and interdisciplinary projects. Daniela is one of the performers of Cada, todos, días in our drama school's Reimagine section. Welcome, Daniela. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. We also have Danielle Spiner. Danielle is a theatre director and has collaborated with many theatres in Prague and elsewhere as a freelance director. His work as a director includes plays from Schiller, Ibsen, Chekhov, and Shakespeare. And since September 2015, Danielle is the artistic director of the National Drama Theatre in Prague. Danielle is the director and performer of Renaissance in our Renaissance 5-minute window section in collaboration with the European Theatre Convention. It's a pleasure to have you here, Danielle. Welcome. We also have Leanetse Seekoe. Lea is an actress, dancer, and playwright. She obtained an honors degree in acting, a postgraduate certificate in education, and a master's in English literature. Lea is concerned with the healing of Black women's relationships, and the use of heightened text in her work is a portrayal of her honest insight and response to cultural dynamics within Black communities in South Africa. Lea is the director and one of the performers of Ruth from our Redefining theatre section. It's a pleasure to have you here, Lea. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also welcome Anton Baklyovsky, who is a choreographer and performer. Since 2003, he has worked in Left Bank Theatre in Kyiv, and from 2010 to present, he's a choreographer and director in the show ballet dance style. Anton is an author of choreographic concepts of performances in Left Bank Theatre and Personalities Theatre. He's one of the performers of VIÑO, which is part of our Redefining theatre section. Welcome, Anton. Thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you.
And finally, we have Olia Shylo, who is a cultural manager and grant writer. She is the author of international musical theatre project Dodomu in Poland. Olia works with international partners and European festivals to present modern Ukrainian theatre art. Now she works as a project manager at Left Bank Theatre in Kyiv and will be discussing VIÑO in our Redefining theatre section. Welcome, Olia.
Nice to meet you all.
Olia will be also supporting us with some translation, right, with Anton, and we'll be sharing some insights from this work, this physical theatre piece that we have in our festival this year. So for the discussion, I have structured the panel in 3 different parts where we will be covering different aspects of the work, and we will be linking the plays and we'll be sharing some of the commonalities and differences, and hopefully finding some inspiration in each other's work, and perhaps in a way projecting the future of theatre together. So let's start with our first round, which is connected to bodies. And my first question will be for Lea. In Ruth, Lea, we see a combination between a very poetic and raw text, but also with lots of body movement, almost choreographic symbols around. So I wondered if you could perhaps share a little bit more about that process, the process that you undertook with Kenneth Falele, who is the choreographer. How did you create or devise this combination between text and body? and whether the body was a fundamental part when thinking and doing Ruth.
Yes, thank you. Well, we looked at the journey of Ruth. Well, the theme of Ruth is mostly about the journey of the character, from losing her mother and having to raise herself. So that's not told in the text. That's not clear in the text. In the text, it's clear that there's a mother and daughter relationship that wasn't strong when the mother was alive. And now that her mother is not there, she's just trying to understand why her mother chose to raise her the way she did in the situation they were in the context that they were living in at that time. So because it's not clear in the text that she's trying to find a journey, we decided to do that in the physical work of her. It's clear in the movement that yes, she's trying to find, she's in a journey, she's looking for something, she's searching for something, and then also having to communicate that issue of a disturbed mother and daughter relationship, that this woman called Ruth is infested with so much trauma and all of these negative memories, good memories of her mother. So having to, because she, in the first part of the show, Ruth doesn't say much. Her mother is the one who narrates the story of Ruth. And so she's responding to the storytelling of Ruth. And most times when you look at especially a mother and daughter relationship, I think maybe a father and son relationship would be the same. But in the African context, there isn't a communication, there isn't a communication. You exist as a child and you are always a child until you get married. But for as long as you don't have children and you're not married, you're a child. And so just that place of where Ruth is, she's trying to rebel, but also being controlled by her mother's words. So that's what the show shows in the physical aspect of it, that Ruth is being controlled by her mother's words, but at the same time, she finds a way to try and disrupt that and rebel against that.
And now that you say this, Leah, I see when I'm enjoying the show, I saw lots of repetition and mirroring in a way, but also lots of breaks there. So I wanted to know what was the starting point also for this choreographic partiture or this choreographic movement. Was it something that the choreographer worked with you as a performer before? Was it from improvisations? How was the process there?
Well, I think what was nice about having a choreographer, because I might be a dancer, but I don't have the mind of a choreographer. So what was nice is that I could tell him my intentions, what I wanted the audience to feel or to experience with Ruth's journey, especially the first half of the show where she's not speaking. So we worked on it with the text. Usually, when you devise a piece, you don't even have the text yet. But with this one, there was a portion of the text and a portion of the text that we found from the movement. So we created the movement, and then we would find the text of where Ruth's mother especially would improvise. And then that's how the text grew. And so with myself, there was things that, especially we like to play with childhood memories, because that's one of the major themes in the play. So I know in one of the scenes, Kenneth was very uncomfortable to do this. And I said, we need to speak about the journey of womanhood for Ruth, and how we express the journey of womanhood with our mothers as girls. And so we have to show that in a way that men don't understand it, because Kenneth was very uncomfortable as an African man of, I don't understand this world, so I don't know how to create it. And I was like, that's good. Then we can create it for the African male audience part of the show, so that they relate, they understand that when I'm talking about this is what happens to a girl when she becomes a woman, that she can't do the same thing. We are constantly told that you can't do the same things that boys can do as you grow. And so physically showing that, so that they physically, as males, understand that.
Thank you so much, Leah. I wanted to ask then Anton and Olia, also connected to this process. VIÑO is a play, is a piece where the whole narrative relies on the ensemble work, the ensemble, the body movement of the ensemble. So I also wanted to know, how was the connection with the director, with Eugene Korniak? Was it like a pre-established set of scenes? Was it co-devised by the ensemble? And how was for Anton as a performer to be part of that process?
Ну, скажу так, у нас ансамбль склався з самого початку.
So we had the ensemble with and some communication with Eugene from the beginning.
Тому що Женя, він дізнавався про нас ще до того, як ми познайомилися в реалі з ним.
Because the director, he already knew something about our theater even before we met each other.
І він давав нам певні завдання, тобто якісь ситуативні речі, якісь етюди, так.
So he was giving us the tasks of finding some situative, like some maybe etudes where actors can already feel like they are creating a story.
З урахуванням того, що ми ніколи не працювали з фізичним театром, тобто
and like just for notice, like actors in our theater have never worked with the physical theater before.
Тобто, ми драматичні актори, і тобто, зрозуміло, що ми там танцюємо, там у виставах все, але саме фізичний театр ми ніколи не працювали.
We are dramatic theater and drama actors, so we know how to dance, we know how to sing, but we actually have never worked with the physical theater.
І тому це був дуже такий незвичний досвід для нас.
So it was very unusual experience for us.
Ми десь тижні-два ходили взагалі, як якісь загублені інопланетяни, ми не розуміли, що від нас хочуть.
So approximately 2 weeks we were walking like a lost aliens because we didn't realize what the director actually wants from us.
Ось, і коли ми вже почали розуміти, що саме він хоче, тобто ми приносили якісь свої придумки, якісь свої етюди, з яких Женя брав щось додавав, щось забирав, і з цього вже формувався там ці етюди, які формувалися в цілу виставу.
So when we realized what the director wants from us, we started to bring him some ideas, some small etudes, where Eugene, the director, was starting to pick some moments that he likes and like connecting and building it in a one line of performance.
I wanted to also ask you now, with what you were saying, Anton, with the work in lockdown or after lockdown, we have seen different threads. One important thread was the monologue, going back to the monologue, one character talking directly sometimes to the screen, directly to the audience. But we have also seen that many people were tending towards physical theater and expression. I wanted to know, how was it for the ensemble company that didn't have then previous experience working as physical theater performers? How was it to engage in a play where everything was through the body? What were the, let's say, creative sparks that arise from that engagement with the body?
Ну, скажу так, ми взагалі у нашому театрі звикли до того, що ми працюємо з різноманітними режисерами, з різноманітними напрямками.
So we already used to, in our theater, that we work with different directors in different directions.
Тобто, ну, це театр Деляарте, як ми працювали до Жені, а потім Женя з фізичним театром, і інші режисери. Тобто, і ми просто звикли до того, що все, що нове, ми намагаємося сприйняти і зрозуміти.
So we worked before with a modern Delarte theater, which you actually watched previous festival, and Anton was also part of it. So we are very connected. Yes. The ensemble already knows that with each new director, they have to try take something from themselves, to try new stuff, and even working with the body was not that unusual because they're drama actors, but like it was another stuff to try. So they were finding this energy from also communication with director and getting this idea from him.
Тобто ми навчалися під час репетиції, під час постановки вистави. Ми навчалися у Жені, Женя навчався у нас якимось там речам.
So we were learning by actually rehearsing. So Eugene was taking something from us, and we were learning something from Eugene.
Ми дивилися, тобто він нам давав якийсь матеріал, там, Піну Бауш, Дімітрос Папаювану, тобто ми дивилися.
So he was giving us some famous artists like Tina Bausch, like, can you repeat, please?
Дімітрос Папаювану.
Yes.
Ми дивилися їх вистави, тобто, щоб зрозуміти, що саме Женя хоче від нас, і вже намагалися, тобто, ну, зрозуміло, що з кожним днем, з кожним тижнем, тобто, ми набирали вже якийсь досвід, і вже з цим певним досвідом, тобто, ми щось робили.
So we were watching everything that he offers us to see what he actually wants, and by day, week by week, we started to realize like the style, the movement, what he wants from us.
Thank you, Anton. Thank you, Olia. I wanted also to connect these threads or trends that I was talking about with your work, Daniel, because in your piece, in Renaissance, we see a beginning with a monologue. We go from an individual to a more collective experience. We go from one character to start seeing many ones. And we go also from text to movement and visual symbols. So I wanted to know, perhaps if you could elaborate a bit on how was that process for you?
Well, this text is a text of a very old director. Actually, 100 years. It's 100 years old that he was in a national theater, and this text was really moving for me because I was thinking about artists in this period of time. And that we lost everything, the meaning, and we really needed to figure out what's the meaning, what we want to say, how we want to say it, and how we can reconnect somehow. And for me, it was also very hard because I'm stuck in this big building in National Theatre. It's like very conservative building for 1,000 people, 3 buildings actually, and I stuck here and I completely forgot to ask myself these questions. I just worked, you know, and as in a factory or something like this, and this COVID moment was very, very good for me, very refreshing for me, because I stopped, I felt empty, and then I realized that the art, which I'm full of, is somewhere else. And also I am an actor. I studied acting also. So I was always very physical and very emotional, and I was thinking about, should I do this story of this 5-minute video with some actor? But then I said, no, it's my emotion and I really need to go through it physically. So actually the shooting, when I was on my knees and I was on my knees on the floor and going through this various spaces, it was very painful for me, you know, after this. I was like really damaged, you know, my body was very damaged. And I needed this kind of process to heal and to run away and to see life, you know. And that was just a 5-minute emotion with 3 acts. And I was always like this. And actually the performance, when I was stuck in this set design and with this costume, it's my performance, it's my production. So I felt like I'm really entrapped in my own work and there is no way out. And that was my physical feeling. And I've gone through this process very emotionally, and actually it was really relief for me. And I'm very happy that I had this task to do for ETC. It was very, very big pleasure for me.
Thank you, Daniel. And I must confess that when I watched it the first time, I thought you were also the author of the text, because it made perfect sense of what an artist might be feeling, what an artistic director might be feeling in this in the midst of this pandemic. So when I saw that it was actually from Karel Hiller, I was like, oh, so it's not like a let's say something that Daniel has a complete overview of, great in directing, performing, but actually the text already existed.
Yes,
that made perfect sense.
This text was in the same situation as we are now, because he wrote it when he was in exile after some heart attack, and he was healing, and it was a very long healing process. And he was also leading National Theatre as me today. And he was really desperate that he's so long, so far away, and for such a long time without something that he was living for. So it was really, and actually I made this text 2 years ago because I made a performance in National Theatre about this artist. So it's connected totally.
Thank you. One last question, Daniel, before we go with Daniela. I noticed that in the making of the piece, there were lots of very powerful close-ups. So I wanted to ask you a bit about that. Sometimes I feel the facial expression, the face, can be a bit lost depending on the theatre sizes and the theatre work that we have. Sometimes we feel that maybe the body is present, but the face can be a little bit blurred. So I wanted to ask you a bit about that facial expression and the potential or possibilities that this short film offered you there.
It offered me completely different experience than theater. And also we this season, we canceled all the premieres. It was like 7 premieres, and we canceled it, and we started to do a project for video, for camera. So we started to realize these things. And for me, it was the greatest thing that I can express something with the detail, which is completely new for me. And actually, I really like it. Because I'm really working in a huge, big theater, so I had to be really physical. When somebody is crying, you really have to fall down, you know. And sometimes, the tradition in Czech Republic is very different. Actually, Czech people really like realism. There is still this kind of sense that realism and very, very. How to say it, like very small acting, like personality acting. So for me, it was it's very hard to work here in this building. And this was something that we completely rearranged, and we just made now many video or film things. And this is something what is really plus for the camera. It's never working in a big spaces in a theater. So yeah, it was very new for me.
Thank you, Daniel. And I would like to connect Renaissance, your piece, with Chile's Cada, todos los días, because it was fascinating for me to see, Daniela, that in a similar structure as with Renaissance from the National Theatre in Prague, we start with a monologue, with a very intimate sharing of someone, of a voice, right? That is sharing something. But then suddenly we go to the collective. We see all the figures there. We see people in movement, and we stop listening to words, but actually seeing bodies in motion, in movement. So I wanted to ask you, what was the inspiration for this piece, and how did you connect with that physical theater work in the ensemble, in your acting cohort?
Well, our creative journey was actually was very long, because I remember our classmates, we all decided to take this course before the pandemic, and we were face to face there in our classrooms, and then we were like close, and we were in our Zooms training and talking and saying, how are we going to do these classes when we are used to connect to ourselves face to face, connect with our bodies. So it was really difficult, and our teachers say, okay, let's all write a memory of our past before the pandemic. And we did that, and we started to create there. And one of our classmates, she wrote this piece, working with all of our memories that we wrote, and then we kind of and our teachers say, okay, we are in this space that you can see in the video, go to a place that resounds you and connect with your memory. And we start to improvising with our bodies, and it all started there. So yeah.
So the great piece is very connected to nature, and it's very connected to different emotions of nature and natural phenomena. So I wanted to ask you whether that nature was an inspiration for your body movement, and how did you connect as a performer with that text? Was it something you prepare with some images of nature, with the longing for something that maybe was lost in the pandemic, or how did you connect, or how did you develop that body movement for the piece, your personal body movement for the piece?
Yeah, absolutely. Nature was one of the start to connect our body and our classmates and all of us, especially because we were all a year close in our bedrooms, in our living rooms, and there our school say, okay, you can finish this course like face to face on December. And we were like, but you can only be like 6 people in this classroom. And we were, no, we want to be together. We want to have this opportunity to finish all this journey. And we were in our university with this space full of trees, full of nature, as you said, and we say, okay, let's connect with this, because we have been disconnected. And actually, all of our writings, all of our memories were we're connected to nature. I remember I wrote about the ocean when I went to the sea with my family. Some of my classmates wrote when he went to the forest. We were all connected, or traveling. So like we all connected with the nature. It was like our common point.
Thank you, Daniela. And yes, indeed, I've been very inspired by work that over lockdown have been connected with nature, with expression, with freedom, with movement. I don't know if you were also having this kind of moments during the lockdown and the pandemic, that even a moment for going out, taking the trash out from our houses was a moment to improvise, to dance, to feel our bodies and to move a little bit there, and just taking our time to be done and out there. And connecting with this idea of out there, let's go to the second part of our panel, which is connected to space. And I've been really fascinated by the way you have all engaged with the space. So I would like to start asking Olia and Anton. The first thing I was curious about is there was no physical distance in VIÑO. You were all moving together, touching, connecting. how was it? Did you have to work with restrictions from the COVID-19, or how was the process of devising a physical touch-based, physical contact-based piece in the midst of a pandemic?
Перед початком репетиції ми себе обрискували всі антисептиком.
From the beginning of the rehearsal, we were spraying the sanitizer on each other.
It's a joke, but по-іншому ніяк в фізичному театрі якби працювати не можна було.
So it's impossible to work in other way in physical theater.
Тобто, ну, дехто з наших акторів вже на той час перехворів, а хтось ще не хворів, але, ну, звичайно, ми слідкували там за своїм здоров'ям, за своїм станом фізичним. І...
So some of the actors were already were sick before and some not yet. So we were always taking in control all the our conditions, how we feel each other.
І, ну, зрозуміло, що по-іншому саме таку виставу без фул-контакту ми зробити не могли.
So there was no way how we could do this kind of performance without a physical touch, without connections like this.
Тобто це був певний ризик, звичайно, але...
There was a risk, of course.
По-іншому це неможливо було.
But it was impossible to be without it.
Thank you. And I was thinking also, I was being a little bit bold here as well, thinking that as artists, we kind of like risk as well, a bit. So, you know, I was just also wondering, while watching VIÑO, there are some solo moments where the performers are alone, but the space and the movement is very connected to a material texture. So in VIÑO, we see liquids, we see balloons, we see a metal heater, let's say. We see glasses, of course. We see different kinds of materials that constitute a texture, a textural space. So I wanted to know if you could elaborate a bit on how do the performers interact? How was the interaction with these materials? Was it something planned from the beginning? And how did they enrich your own choreography and movement?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last question? Because I missed it while I was translating.
How did the materials enrich the body movement and the choreographical devising of the piece? The texture, how did they enrich them?
Ну, скажімо так, що, звичайно, дуже багато речей, вони були і знайшлися саме під час репетицій. Тобто ці кульки, ну, бокали зрозуміло, тому що спочатку вистава мала називатися «Алкоголь», але з часом...
A lot of stuff we're finding out in the process of rehearsing. So we came with the idea about the balloons. Of course, the glasses were from the beginning because first name of the performance was alcohol, not vino.
І тому, ну, звичайно, різновид бокалів, він був з самого початку. Тобто бокали, пляшки, і придумуючи на рівні наших асоціативних якихось речей на задані теми, тобто ми обростали ось цими речами на сцені і цими пристосуваннями.
So from the beginning, we had at least two types of glass because there were glasses, drinking glass, and the glasses from the bottles because it all comes from the theme. But other ideas were coming in the process when we were trying to try new stuff. We were trying to. Можеш повторити, що ти сказав?
На рівні нашого
асоціативного ряду. We're trying to associate some moments and all of them were coming in the process already.
Ми обростали цими речами. І тому, ну, і звичайно, як ми їх обживали вже на місці, Женя дивився, наскільки це працює чи не працює, в задану їм тематику або його мети, тобто в кінечному
So we were
результаті.
trying it all already in place, and Eugene was like just sharing what he thinks about each of them, and does it fit to his main idea.
От і тому, ну, звичайно, що ця робота з простором, це було, ми ж на сцені цього не бачимо, тобто його це бачить Женя. І тобто він вже коректував ці речі за рахунок світла, музики, звуків, ми підзвучували якісь там скрипки, стільців, ми підзвучували там наші кроки. Тобто це якісь були речі, які він вже працював, як...
So we as actors, we haven't seen what is going on the stage actually, and a lot of stuff Eugene was taking with more light or different sounds, for example, like this sounds of the moving chair. So he was getting like more speaking of this, like a drop in water, or які ти ще сказав? Yeah, and the steps. So all of that was more emphasized by the director because he's seen the whole picture.
Тобто він обживав цю територію, він обживав ще її певною атмосферою.
So he was also giving some life to this picture by creating this vibe, this with the sound, with the light, with all these materials and the texture.
Thank you. Thank you, Anton. Thank you, Olia. I would like to connect now, Daniela, with this idea of textures and materials, because in Cada día, todos los días, we have seen mud, we have seen water, we have seen the outdoors performance. So I wanted, please, if you could share a little bit more about what creative possibilities did you find in this outdoors and in this interaction with natural elements, with leaves, with the water? What did you find that was creative or inspiring for you?
Well, it was, at first, it was like really seeing and watching the space. And for me, and I think for my classmates, it was very like instinct, like, I don't know, I remember one of my classmates went to a tree and the tree moves itself. So you can imitate it and how it moves, or even the structure of the university, the building, the stairs, everything is kind of told you something because it have a geometry of the wind. And I remember I remember the gardener was like with, I don't know, like la manguera, I don't know how to say, like put some water into the trees, the flowers, and we say, oh, the water is like here. So we were like listening and really connecting with the space, with the building, with the geometry, and there we started to imitate and connect with the with all the structure that we were seeing. And also with our material that was our memories and all the work that was like actually a year. Like this piece we kind of constructed in only 3 days. So we have to like really listen to our classmate, to the place. We have to be really quick to kind of, okay, this works, this not so much, kind of construction all the play, but actually to think about the memories before the pandemic, after pandemic was like a year. So it was really intense work, but yeah.
Thank you, Daniela. I was actually thinking about this idea of the site-specific performance and getting inspired by what is there. And when watching and enjoying Cada día, todos los días, I felt that, you know, it just needed to be outdoors. It just needed to be there. I wasn't seeing a restriction, but possibilities. And I would like to connect this idea also with Daniel's work in Renaissance. When watching Renaissance, Daniel, I felt a bit that I was seeing the heart of the National Theatre in Prague, using that symbol, of course, because I was seeing your office, I believe. I was seeing the front door. I was seeing you know, like the stage, but in a different way. So I wanted to ask you, how did you decide to show this heart of theatre? What was the inspiration for this, and what were the possibilities that you found in these non-conventional spaces?
Oh, wow. Because this emotion, what I described and that I wanted to show, was totally connected with the theater, with the building, like with the place that people meet, and it was also connected with my work, because it was, I also told you, it was my production. So, but you know, I think that what is very it was very personal, because I really wanted to show you how I'm going to work every day, not to have to work, you know, but just figured out how to figure out the artistic life, and of course you have a papers and you have to do many things, you have manage the projects, but you know, I really lost it, my field, and so I wanted to show you how I was lost in my perfect space, and then to fall in the nightmare of my own production, which is connected with the real theater, with the real memories of doing this production, and also all the aspects there, the nurse and the heart. It was the aspects of the production. So I didn't have to figure out these things, because it was organically there already. And actually, very interesting thing was that I wanted to say this whole text in the beginning, and then let it be. And then we figured out that we need to find some hope. So we cut it in half, and the second half was at the end. And it's very interesting that with the different images, it brought some kind of new breathing, or what's the word? Catharsis, you know. So yeah, but it was very connected with all the things that are very personal for me. That's why I was also there, and that's why we used totally space that is connected with it.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And while listening to you, and also while watching the piece, I felt this sense of gratitude also for you, for the vulnerability, for sharing with us this story, but also with the rest of artists that were in a very difficult time, still aiming to find some hope. So thank you. I want to thank the five of you and all the artists that are part of the International Online Theatre Festival now. And I would like to connect this idea of generosity with Leah's performance with Ruth, because I felt that the interaction between Ruth mostly, but also with the mama, but mostly Ruth in the space was kind of symbiotic in a way. Ruth moving in that space made complete sense. Ruth not being able to go on this platform for some reason that I don't know what, like, made perfect sense. So I wanted to ask you, Leah, if you could share with us a bit, what are your ideas of creative possibilities in the connection between performer and space? Does the performer move with the space? Does the performer move as a response to the space? Some thoughts around that for you in Ruth.
That's an interesting question, because for Ruth, the set, because we were in a conventional space, and in the set was, the way it was designed, it could change. You could imagine it as a womb, as a woman's womb, with the drawings on the floor that look like tree branches, and you know, the the ramp where the mother is that Ruth can't enter. You can imagine it as heaven. You can imagine it as a tube. You can imagine Ruth's area where she comes out also as maybe the, sorry to use this word, for the vagina where she comes out, or you can imagine it as a tree. She's sitting under a tree. You know, you can see it in so many different ways. So can you repeat your question? Because I just lost my train of thought.
What are your thoughts around the creative possibilities between space and performer? Does the performer shape the space? Does the space shape the performer? How is that interaction, and how do you live it?
Yeah, so as I was using Ruth as an example, I think what's amazing about physical theater pieces is that you can narrate your own or create your own world. You can create your own setting. You can transform the world. You can transform the space, especially if you're in site-specific spaces. That's even more more playful. But when you are confined to a conventional space, the beauty of using physical theater is that you can move the audience out of that mindset that we're in a theater space. You can move them out of that space and introduce them into your world. So yeah.
I was just thinking also, Leah, if you could share, I don't know how were the restrictions in South Africa when you were developing the play, but I felt that this physical distance that we see also between Ruth and the mom made perfect sense with the narrative. So I wonder whether this was a requirement from the theatre, is something that you needed to do, or actually it was a conscious decision from the creative process.
Initially, because of the restrictions, initially we were not going to be in the same space at the same time. Mother was going to be on the screen, reflected on the screen, and Ruth would be on the stage physically. And then the restrictions were lifted and we're like, oh, okay, we can be in the same space at the same time. And I think that distance remained, that initial distance between she's not here and she's here remained, because the narrative in the story of Ruth is that you don't know, the mother is sometimes there and she's sometimes not. So you go in and out of mother being there and not being there. And so that created that distance, but also that need that Ruth had to disconnect from her mother, to say, please go, you are dead, leave me alone. So it also created that distance to constantly move away from them, from each other.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And yeah, while you were describing it, I was like, yeah, I felt that. Maybe I wasn't conscious or aware of that, but I felt it in there. And for me, that's the beauty and the power of including those physical dynamics there. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Leah. Thank you so much. Let's go to the final round, the third round, and it's looking at the future directions of theatre. And I have shared with you a little bit of the questions that I will pose, connecting your piece, your work, but actually also in relation to the three different sections that we have in our festival. So my invitation is that, as we have seen with your work, the restrictions can also open up creative possibilities, can open up new ways of doing things. And my invitation is that now we reflect together and in a way kind of start shaping the future of theatre together, the six of us today. So let's start with Anton and Olia. And my question for you is, in what ways do you see that theatre can redefine itself after a pandemic or in a post-pandemic world?
Ну, наприклад, саме мене хвилює така штука, щоб взагалі театр як явище не перетворився на щось, на якусь онлайн-версію цього всього.
So what really bothers Anton personally, that he really worries if the theater can actually turn into this digital and online thing forever.
Тому що саме без відчуття живої енергетики і акторів, і глядачів у залі, це вже не театр, це вже більше якесь телебачення, кіно і так далі.
Because without this live energy between the actors and audience, this is not a theater anymore. It's more like a TV or a cinema. So.
Тому мені здається, що я поки не знаю, яким чином ми повинні намагатися зберегти саме цю живу енергію, яка відбувається в театрі, будь-якому театрі, фізичному, драматичному, будь-якому. І саме ця жива енергія має і нас годувати, так, підпитувати, і давати якусь надію далі на продовження саме такої роботи.
So the most important is keeping alive this energy between, because this is what actually, let's say, feeds actors and feed the audience. And this is like, in our opinion, because I also share Anton's thoughts that we have to do everything to keep alive this energy between the audience and actors. And actually, what I would like to add that maybe even if we would turn into some online thing and it wouldn't be already the theater, there should be already other possibilities for the theater to be as we are. Maybe, I don't know, as I even was thinking, to have some protective screen or anything, but when the audience will be really in the theater, so there will be some energy even with all restrictions, because that's what we call a theater.
Thank you so much to both of you. Daniel, my question for you is, how do you project or envisage the renaissance of theatre?
I can just say only something for what I hope, because I don't have a crystal ball, but and I will be very specific because I'm living in Prague, as I said, and it's very specific environment for theater, because we have like 100 theaters in the city. It's like really huge market. And when I started to work in National Theatre, I felt that that we have like many productions, too much productions. The quality is quite bad. We didn't think so much why we are doing this or that. And I think after pandemic, we really have to think, we really have to think out of our comfort zone. And that's very important for artists, and especially for theater people, because they are culture that brings people together physically. So I hope that actually I started to think about the quality of performances, that we also change the system into the block system. We really feel that the money will be issue for many years now. So the big production will not be available now for some time. Maybe we should go into some roots of theater. We should really think what theater really is, and what is theater now, surrounded by so many media and so many other languages that are somehow connected with theater also. So I hope that the renaissance of theater will be the way of thinking, the new view, how to share the space and connection and the stories. And I think that, and for me as an artist, I think that I'm coming to the basics and roots, and I'm overwhelmed now by the big set designs which I was used to, and like throwing the money and big festivals and everything like this. I think that now we should really start with the communication and sharing the space, because pandemic destroyed it, So that's it, and I hope that theater will never die.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much. Daniela, I also wanted to ask you, from the perspective of the schools, the training in the theatre making, in the theatre crafting, in the arts, how do you think theatre can reimagine itself from the schools, from the training?
Well, now that I'm actually in my final semester, and it has been crazy because we have to be in our classes, not touching our classmates with mask, training with this mask, so it has been really difficult, actually. But I think it has been also very interesting to think with our teachers, like in collaboration, not like this like authority and you are the teacher and you are the student. I think we have to start to think in collaboration, creatively, because we are, especially in Chile right now, all theaters are closed, and we are like, how we are going to stay alive? Like, so we have to all put out our creative thoughts or works or in our thinking on how it's gonna be the future, because I think everything right now is so like we don't know anything. Like it can, how it's gonna transform this pandemic. So I think we have to be really alert and with all senses. And I think what it makes a lot of sense what Daniel said, like perhaps this new theater is gonna be really primal, and our bodies are gonna take a really importance more than the stage, the scenography, the costumes. And I also think that that I think we have to think like connecting a lot of disciplines, not only like I'm an actress and I'm gonna tell the text. How can communicate the dance or the lighting, the lights, or the camera? The camera can be another performer, not just like I'm gonna record a piece and I'm gonna only see this. No, how the camera can involve. Like, I think we have to be all the time creative and thinking, and be really like hope that we are going to stay alive, as we all say.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you so much. Finally, Leah, I wanted to ask you, what is important that we consider for redefining theatre?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Can you say that again?
Yes. What is it important that we consider for redefining theatre?
Okay. I think we should acknowledge and accept that things are changing. You know, before there was postmodern theater, the reason why things like postmodern theater and all these other styles of theater were developed were because of the situations that were happening in the world. You know, not just a certain part of the world. In Europe, there were the wars. In South Africa, there was the apartheid and all of these things that were happening. And so theater styles were developed because of the situations. And now we're in the state, like Daniel was saying, redefining. We need to find out what does theater mean to us now in the situation, and develop another style of theater so that we can survive the pandemic, you know, survive it and adapt to the pandemic instead of fighting and rejecting it. I think the pandemic came, we're in a new era, and it came at 2020, you know, starting a whole new era and a whole new generation. So I think that's what's happening, that we just have to accept it, that we have to start again.
Thank you so much, Leah. And thank you to the five of you for sharing these thoughts with me. Looking at this future of theatre in this last round, and I took some notes. I wrote 5 words here that I wanted to share with you. Shared energy, roots, collaboration, and change. Thank you. Thank you to the 5 of you for being here with me. And thank you all that enjoying the shows. My invitation is that you enjoy VIÑO, Cada, todos, días, Ruth, and Renaissance until June 4th, when our International Online Theatre Festival will be over. Thank you so much for being here, and see you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye.